Billy Slater is one of the sharpest minds in footy, but even the best can fall into the trap of overthinking. When the pressure is on, it's easy to lean into detail and tactics, but sometimes that takes you further away from what actually drives performance. And that's clarity, connection, and trust in who you are. In this episode, we're unpacking what you can learn from Billy's approach and how to avoid the common mistake so many coaches and leaders make when things get tough. I'm Ian Hawkins, and this is Sport is Life. The purpose of sport, as I see it, is to see your vision become a reality. Find your voice, create strong connections, and learn to trust your body. Do you reckon Billy Slater might have outsmarted himself? I reckon he might have. There was a moment in State of Origin 1 where Queensland needed a lift. There was an opportunity to kick to the villain in the New South Wales team, Spencer Leniu, to make a statement, to take a moment, to own that moment. Sport's all about moments. And they had an opportunity there, and yet they kicked away from him. They chose to kick off to the other side. There's been plenty of talk about it. And I just wonder, because he's, all the reports are he's meticulous in his coaching. Like, he knows all the detail. But has he gone too much into detail and too much into analytics? I see this all the time with coaches at, all levels, but particularly a lot of the work that I do with people in clubs and schools, and when things get harder, the reaction seems to be going into, okay, well, what different system can we play here? What can we get better at analysing the game, at going into more video, at looking at more detail? Now, those things are important, but when things aren't going so well, sometimes you can overanalyse that and instead come back to moments. Now, imagine if they'd kicked to Spencer and the Queensland forwards had just bashed him. What like a game-changing moment that could have been. Now, if they couldn't do that, well, then maybe the game's already lost. But you're giving yourself a chance. But instead, they forego that opportunity for that moment because they've obviously done the data and the detail. Well, we want to reduce the possibility. But what's been really interesting is watching a lot of the Queenslanders in the media try to defend him, where you can see some of them that they're trying their best to support their Queensland comrade, but not doing a great job of it. With guys like Gordon Tallis, Cameron Smith, they were both asked, do you think that was the right thing to do? Would you have done that? And we all know that those guys would have absolutely kicked towards Spencer Leniu and tried to bash him, to make a statement, that ruthless nature. And they've kind of tiptoed around it a bit. One of them said, Cameron Smith said, I probably would have kicked to him. Gordon Tallis was like, why would you do that? I reckon sometimes you can go too far in that space too of trying to defend your people and just go, maybe there just needs to be open accountability. Just call it as it is. They've got very good at not killing their own like we do sometimes in New South Wales. We go attack each other and blame, and as that club culture comes out and we point all the fingers. Maybe sometimes just that brutal accountability is needed, and maybe it's okay for you to say, I think you got that wrong, but still fully support them. Also been interesting watching a lot of the fans also trying to defend it when it seemed a very un-Queensland sort of decision. Like, this is a team that's always punched above their weight. They've always had a smaller pool to choose from. They've dominated at times, and against perhaps some New South Wales teams that on paper looked better because they've won those moments. They've won those big State of Origin moments, and I just reckon they missed a trick there. So again, apply that to your own leadership, to your own coaching. Do you go into more detail? Do you go into more analytics? Do you go into your own head and overthink things? Or do you go, okay, well, what is some of the simpler things that we need to do here? Also, it was interesting last year when there was a bit of interplay between the coaches, and Billy, for the first few games, he was actually probably first few series, he was using things like anchoring, where you repeat certain phrases and certain words and it creates a certainty. And if he was using those same phrases to his players, it's like they lock into a certain trigger word, which helps them in those moments to switch back to whatever he's helped them to do. Like one of the phrases he was using regularly was "get our game on," and you imagine at that time where game on. If that's the anchor, game on, then at the moment game's on, and he's talking about it in the media, then the crowd gets behind him, the players know it's game time. But then he sort of stopped doing some of those in game 3 when he seemed to get a little bit rattled. Plenty of people again defending him, saying no, that wasn't the case, but he did seem to get a bit rattled by some of the commentary that came back from the opposition. And again, I just wonder whether got too much into the overthinking, and instead of just sticking true to who he is and what he does, and also to the team and their identity. So it's well and good to bring your own identity to any situation, but you also need to look at the identity of the team. And Queensland has always been that team of moments, of consistently sticking to the way they do things. Yeah, interesting. But what I know is that when you are in your own situations where things get tricky, things get challenging, where maybe whether it's a sporting environment where you're getting more losses than you know you should do with the team you have, or if you're a leadership position and maybe your team's not performing to its level, it's not overcomplicating it. Don't go into overthinking. Instead, come back to what's most important. Sometimes it's like coming back to foundation, coming back to what you know works. It's like, I look at it like the golf swing. How many times for us amateurs where maybe something's not quite right, and instead of just going, okay, well, maybe I just wasn't mentally there, you start going into all these swing corrections and all these details and over-analysis. I saw a great description the other day. It's saying if you're trying to throw a bit of paper in a bin and you're just walking past it and you just hit it and you get it in, did you worry about your technique then? Did you worry about having your arm perfectly straight? Did you worry about having everything in the right alignment? Or did you just pick your target, relax and throw it in there? It's like, that's a good point. In golf, you go into all these different things, and in life we do it too, right? We get in our own head, we overthink things, and I reckon that's where Billy is at the moment. Now, maybe in a week's time, Queensland have won game 2, and maybe he has outsmarted the opposition. But I bet if they do win, it's because they've gone back to what they know works. Simple, foundational, identity-based performance where they know they're going to get good results. Be interesting to see. As a Blues fan, unashamedly hope that that's not the case and that we continue to dominate. I like close games, but given the punishment that we've copped over the years, I'm more than happy to absolutely wipe the floor with them as well. But either way, I'll be looking on with interest at how the coaches lead, how they react. And like I said in a previous episode, this is where high performance lives, having that self-awareness around how other high performers carry themselves and how they operate and what you can learn from them. So that's my take on what we can learn from where Billy Slater is at the moment, based on my observations only, of course. There's no way of knowing what's really going on behind closed doors, but I have spent a fair bit of time talking to people, observing people, and I reckon I'm pretty close to the mark on this one. As always, would love to know your thoughts. What do you think about this? What have you experienced in your own leadership? Where have you got knocked off course by trying to get too detailed, too analytical, and maybe examples of where you got yourself on track by bringing it back to simplicity and owning the moments? You've taken the time to listen to this whole episode. Now it's time to take action. Commit to one thing you've learned today and make it happen. And to avoid any obstructions, join the Sport is Life movement by clicking on the link in the show notes.